Hello, my name is Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, and I want to welcome you to another session of Drop-In CEO Live Talk Media, where the Drop-In CEO partners with C-suite leaders who are going through transformation. We partner, we fix the problem, but we also elevate the people for a lasting impact. And today I am grateful to be joined by David Eric Johns, Managing Director of Zafari, turning around and elevating your business before it turns on you. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Deb. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat today. Of course, this is an important week for a lot of people, and I'd like to start off to speaking to the fact that we need to take time out to celebrate and be reminded of what we should be thankful and grateful for. And while certainly the argument is we should be thankful and grateful every day, you still need these sort of milestones, to stop us and check in with each other and with our families for the things that are really important for us. And I'm really grateful that I have this opportunity to be here today.
And thank you, Eric. I really appreciate this. Again, you and I have had several conversations and exchanges. I'm grateful for networking. I'm grateful for knowing you and being able to bring some interesting talking points to whoever's watching today, because I just think that between our two brands and how we serve businesses and leaders, there is something there that everybody can learn from, and perhaps we can help somebody that's watching today. And I too am thankful. My daughter is home. Tomorrow we're going to have a Zoom call with my extended family, some from Europe, some from New Jersey, and just come together and enjoy each other's company. So thank you so much. So for everybody out there today, the reason why I wanted to get on here is that what Eric and I do is similar but different. But ultimately, we are here to partner with senior leaders and help them through the business opportunities. But I want to elevate Eric, and I know there's something about your name you want to talk about that's interesting, but please tell us more about your brand, Zafari, the clients that are attracted to your work, and where are they at in the journey when they may need you?
So actually, my name is David Eric Johns, but I go by my middle name, Eric. But over the years, I've come to be called David, Eric, and John, and it doesn't really matter to me. I have thick skin, and plus that, it's just kind of a funny way to start the conversation, to do that. So, Zafari supports a lot of different types of businesses. We're business agnostic, as the term is these days when we talk about this stuff, and pretty much when clients are on the journey, what's happening is, especially with smaller businesses, and construction businesses in particular, we're entering a very volatile time. They price out a project a year out, sometimes maybe even just 6 months out. However, as with the post-COVID environment here, there's like a lot of price volatility. So when you come time to actually execute, you might have a profit margin, programmed into it. However, your pricing now for buying the product in the first place exceeds even what you had expected for the profit margin. So that's a problem. Also, the workforce structure that we've had this past year, obviously with government payments and things like that, it's made it a little bit stifled at some points to keep everybody employed every single day. People, different parts of the country, concerned about different levels of COVID and things like that. Coming to work. It's been an issue this past year, and the transitory nature of people moving too. People are moving from one state to another. So, there's just a lot more moving parts in the past 24 months than say in the previous 24 to really 24 months to 60 months, really.
So it really is about the current state. We are still a bit in crisis because now we're feeling the ripple effect of being locked down and restricted to now things are starting to move again, but things look different. So it's definitely a transformation. And I'm grateful there's a person like you out there helping leaders like look at the details. And I too, I work with senior leaders whenever there is some kind of transformation. It could be a downsizing of an operations. It could be the acquisition of new assets and resources, loss of a leader, or new customer requirements. And so often these leaders have been so successful in what they do, but when things change, all of a sudden the wheels start falling off the bus. They start feeling uncomfortable. They start seeing some minor failures in the business and start saying, I'm not sure if I can get through the transformation alone. So that's how I help leaders as well. Very similar whenever there's a significant change, crisis, or something we've never been faced with before. So I want to know a little bit more because, again, you and I talk. I think I get what you do, but I would love to know a little bit more about maybe a particular client you've worked with over the years, and what was the issue and how were you able to impact them?
Well, in operations, as that's actually people spend a lot of time and effort working on, marketing and sales and bringing revenue into a company.
Yeah.
And when you bring the revenue in, it's really obviously it's important to have high sales, but really at the end of the day, what's important is how much you get to keep of the money you bring in. And operations really focuses on making sure that an owner and shareholders keep what they sell to the maximum extent practical. And I think some people lose a little bit of sight of that in their business because so much time and effort goes into the sales aspect and the marketing aspect of their operations. So when you can go into things you find inefficiency. So for example, in a construction company, it's not uncommon to have to be engaged in the permitting process. So if you don't have a smooth, easy flowing permitting process, inside your construction company, you can get delays. And even if you get the work done, sometimes one of the times I worked for a company that was very competent accomplishing the work, but not as competent in getting the permits. So when it got to the end of the job, the clients, the customers, the owners of the buildings that they worked on, weren't willing to write that final check because they didn't have the permit in hand. So until the owner gets the permit in hand, the owner, even though the company might be competent, the owner does not have the assurance that it was done according to code. So of course they're going to hold back the pay. So, and that's a time where it has a big impact on cash flow, obviously, because if you don't get the permits done and you don't get the final payment, you're going to be in a bit of a bind, and it can add up. So one time, one of the projects I worked on, it was an immediate return on investment within like weeks, getting the permitting process turned around. And it sounds like a small thing, but I mean, if the small thing results in hundreds of thousands of dollars not coming into your construction company, it suddenly turns into, a big thing. And that's just like one little tiny element of operations that we look at. We look at all the processes that people undergo.
But those are certainly some of the bottlenecks, and we should talk sometime. My husband is in construction management and a growing business, and really good at all different places along the way. But sometimes there's hiccups, and we shouldn't just assume things are running smoothly because they have in the past. But as a business grows, as the supply chain is impacted, we start seeing things break down. So it's good to have an expert like you looking at all these processes, because when the rubber hits the road and you got to pay something, or you need to be paid in order to pay your contractors, really, really important stuff. And I agree with you. So often businesses look at top line growth, sales, and marketing. We got to get the clients customer facing. Very often the CEO is very good at that relationship. And then we don't focus enough on operations. Operations is about maintaining that customer loyalty and trust, because if we can't deliver, it makes the front end process look difficult. And yes. So we agree on that. A little bit about what I do just real quickly here is I too will drop into situations where it's usually on the operations side, but it's usually a new requirement where they don't have the capacity and capability to do it. And so I was once asked, can you help us get a quality certification? Because if we don't, we might fall off the core supplier list and no longer have that top line growth. And so when we dropped in, I said, yes, I can check the box and help you get that certification. But sometimes on the journey of looking at your operations, we learned that they didn't have a lot of processes documented. They had old behaviors of operating that worked in the past. But what happened is we actually didn't get our certification on the first time around because the person forgot to sign a record for preventive maintenance. And while the equipment operated, and they got an order out that day. They missed an important part of maintaining the operations. And what happens if that equipment breaks down because you didn't do the preventive maintenance on it? Oh boy, are you going to impact customer orders? So we opened up the eyes of the client to there is a culture here of doing the right thing, but sometimes at the detriment of maintaining operations. So again, I can't wait to connect with business owners that potentially are going through those change. Let's connect before the wheels fall off the bus.
Right.
But
Right.
what is it like to work with your clients? When you go in, what are the first things that you see that usually are the quick wins? And what are those things that you start moving them towards strategically? Because I want people to understand what is it like to work with Eric Johns.
So kind of just quickly typing on touching in on the preventive maintenance that you just talked
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
It's
sorry.
pretty funny. I spent like 37 years in the military, and I was an Army engineer officer, and then I was in the Air Force, and I was worked all the way up through, vice wing command. And maintenance obviously is a huge issue,
Yes.
and it's not going to be like the wheels fall off the bus. It's going to be the planes fall out of the sky.
Oh my.
And the other thing is we were an air refueling unit, and we had specific deadlines we had to meet. You had to get to the right grid in the air, so to speak, at the exact right time to make contact with the fighters and the bombers. So if you don't do that, if you don't have your maintenance up to schedule, and you don't make those, so absolutely, the maintenance, whether it's computer maintenance, or vehicle maintenance or aircraft maintenance or any of the maintenance that you do in the work that is associated with your stuff, maintenance is absolutely a critical issue, and maintenance of human beings is important as well. And the QA part, another quick, and actually, I'm not really answering your question directly, but
It's okay. Let's just go here. I think this is good.
the thing is, I can tell some great QA stories that are similar to your QA stories, but recently I ran into a QA issue that all of a sudden I was like, darn, the reason this company's having a problem is because they don't have a QA on an internal process that you would never suspect needs QA, which is, building the estimates and the bids. Okay. Because everybody thinks about what final product is. Did I get the screws in the right distance? Did I get the nuts turned the right, tension, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. However, if you don't have a QA process on your estimates to make sure that when the estimate, meets the smell test, okay, the rule of thumb, so you're doing an estimate for a project, you need to have like a rule of thumb for what should it cost, so that somebody who's over the estimator can take a quick peek at that estimate and say, does this even look right? Do I have the right number of permits and things like that? These are like little, you need to have a checklist for just doing the estimates. How long is it going to take to get paid? There's just, do I have standard boilerplate language that I know that I've talked to my attorney about that should fit into my estimate? Is that boilerplate, that little block of text on every single estimate when it goes out the door? And are all of my estimates when they go out the door, do they look consistent? What's my like 3-point estimate checklist? Just like when you take your car down to the dealership to get done, they have like their 7-point checklist that they market themselves on before they give your car back to you after they do the maintenance on it. You should have inside your own organization, checklists for these processes, for your own internal quality control to make sure that when it goes out, it meets the standard. Because when you even sending your estimate out to a contractor, even though that's quote unquote not your plumbing product, your carpentry product, etc., that still represents you as an organization. And that estimate that goes out the door, that tells a story about your company before they even open it up.
So I so appreciate what you talk about. Again, in the beginning, it may be fine. All the knowledge is in the person who's doing the estimating. But as they delegate and move it to somebody with perhaps less experience or somebody that does have experience, as you say, a checklist is so critical to pilots and and the military, even just our businesses, because think about the time, the rework, the phone calls, trying to fix things when we don't have those work standards in our business. Very critical, because those are going to be so important to how you sustain and grow and maintain loyalty. So important. And that's why I love talking talking to you because those are the things that we find. We have an eye for that, not only just the quality, obviously the operational efficiency. What can go wrong? Because ultimately, we're here to try to bring peace of mind to people that we serve who are going through the changes. Just a little bit about me. I do similar work, but I do work in the quality and operational excellence and compliance space. But I know if I need a COO to go down into the details of the P&L, that's where I would probably bring somebody like you in because you have that depth of experience, the military experience, which is amazing. And I also piggyback onto that just a little bit because we can fix those issues, but unless the estimator or the person or the leader has the capability and capacity to be influential, how to communicate, how to be more effective. Those are things that can hold back a business and you don't sustain those gains for the work that you do. So I also do a little bit of personal development and leadership development so that not only when you or I are done with an experience, they are left in a better place with more capability and be able to sustain the work that we do. So that's where I'm seeing the differences and similarities between what we do.
One of the things I can tell you, reading the posts that Deb puts up and reading through Deb's book, she really does do a lot of time. We talked about this briefly before we got on, we went live. She does a great job of talking about the mindfulness and the human experience of things and bringing the human back to it. I come from a strong mathematical and engineering background. And so what I do actually, I know that the human part is extremely critical. However, sometimes I get down into the weeds of all the mechanical things. So what I like about Deb and what she always reminds me of is coming back up and remembering that a person is going to do whatever this thing is that I'm coming up with and, ensuring that I keep that front of mind. And that's what I appreciate about Deb.
And that's why we need this diversity, the similarity and shared backgrounds in operations, because we love making things right and getting them out the door, but also combining your technical expertise as well as some of the leadership development. So critical to get a lasting impact. So this has been a great conversation, Eric, but I would just love to maybe give you the floor one last time. If there are any last closing thoughts for leaders that are out there potentially watching this, and also how people could connect with you, because I know they're going to want to.
Right. So you can get a hold of me by going to ZaferiCorp, ZaferiCorp.com. Find me on LinkedIn at David Eric Johns. I'm pretty easy to find. I write, 2 to 3 times a week about different things. You're welcome to go through and read a lot of the things that I've written about. I've written extensively about some of the things I just talked about. I actually enjoy writing quite a bit, and I enjoy meeting a lot of different people. But as far as directly communicating to CEOs and COOs, definitely this time of year, it's time to bring together your people. Remember, celebrate the victories that you got over the past year, because you definitely got some victories. Learn from those things, and then, proceed forward next year, with a new vision. Take the time to communicate that vision and what your ideas are to all your people, and make sure that they embrace them. And if there are misunderstandings with your people, or you think that there might be, take a few extra minutes and explain it to them and ask for feedback, because when they give you feedback, when you ask them the questions, if the answers they give will tell you whether or not they heard what you said. And so you really need to take that to heart. And if you need to recapitulate or to re-articulate your message, just go ahead and do it. It's okay.
That's really, really great advice as we kind of bring things in towards the end of the year, reflect on what has worked well, but also dig down deep into the organization and understand what your people are thinking and what are the opportunities or what are the strengths of what you've already done. I'd love to bring it in here. Again, this is Drop-In CEO Live Talk Media. If you want to hear more about my services, go to my website, dropinceo.com. That's DROPINCEO.com. You can also get a lot of my writings, the Drop-In CEO podcast, my new book, The CEO's Compass, Your Guide to Get Back on Track. Great resources, because we, Eric and I, sincerely care about you, want to be able to elevate your business in the coming year. And Eric, you've been amazing. I just want to say thank you for the professional relationship and jumping on here and being a good sport with me and sharing our content live with our viewers. So thank you, and I wish you a great holiday.
Thanks, Deb. Take care.